Sai Ram, thank you for the opportunity to give my experiences throughout my life, which started in 1990 with Swami, and that is when I feel my life started, even though I was born in 1956. I came across Swami when I was young. My father took me, I was probably 5-6 years old, took me to Dharmakshetra in Bombay. And of course, at that time, I knew nothing about Swami, and I was a child, didn't understand anything. And life goes on. I grew up. My father used to attend Dharmakshetra, and we used to go there. Finally, went through the medical school and completed the school and came to US in 82. And in 84, where I was doing my residency, very small Indian community. So we kind of got together because the community being so small, trying to help each other. And I get invited to bhajans at one of the friends' home. They used to have bhajans on Thursday. So that was my first experience as an adult with Swami's activity. And at that time, didn't understand what the bhajans are and would sit in the last row. I was going because I was invited. And after the bhajans, there would be prasadam, and have prasad and go. And this went on for few years from 84, and after my completion of education, residency, and cardiology fellowship, 1990 was the first time I was going to see my parents, but say, let me go and see Swami, because I've attended quite a few bhajans and they talk about different stories about Baba, and I landed few books on Baba, which I read. And so out of curiosity, I said, let me go and see Swami one time. So I go to Parthi in 1990, my wife and I and my children. We go to Parthi, landed in Bangalore, told taxi driver to take us to Parthi, and driver says, well, if you're going to see Baba, Baba is here in Bangalore. And I said, well, then take us to Bangalore. And we were lucky enough that as soon as the taxi reaches the ashram, everybody says, Baba is coming, Baba is coming. So we just trusted a taxi driver with our luggage. We all ran in and sat down. And in Bangalore, the sitting arrangements are much different. In those days, in 1990, different from Puttaparthi. And somehow, again, I got lucky to be in that small square in the front row, even though it was quite far from where Baba's chair was. But Swami came, gave darshan, walked around, and when he came near me, he looked at me and looked into my eyes and stared at me without blinking. That's how I felt. And I also looked into the eyes without blinking, and suddenly the tears started rolling down my cheeks. And I just couldn't stop crying. And my two sons were with me and asking me, Dad, why are you crying? And I said, really, I don't know why I'm crying, but I just can't stop crying. And it feels like Baba looked into my eyes for unlimited time. And that's when the change happened in me. And I got infected, as we say. And after that, every year started going to Parthi and led to meeting other devotees. Dr. Raghavendra Prasad, who was also very close to Swami, did medical camp with him in the ashram in 1995 in the tents outside the round building, one or two, I think. And we did medical camps at the birthday time a few times. And following that, we got invited to do camps in the general hospital. That's where we moved our camps every year in birthday time. And I think a few years later, we added Guru Purnima. And a few years later, we added Shivratri. And lastly, we added Christmas time also. So with so many frequent visits to Parthi, and then of course I was so much infected that in between also I would go to Parthi, and at that time I would work at the super specialty hospital. And then Baba started inviting us and trying to reshape me completely. So these interviews really made a difference in my life, guided me in many different ways to how one should be using their time and the purpose of our life. And the service is what Swami stressed each time. And we were doing a lot of services other than the medical camps. Neelam, my wife, started doing services in the churches in where we live, and he guided us through that. There were a lot of difficulties in the beginning because they're afraid that we are trying to change the children and trying to change their religion. But after a lot of convincing, and Swami clearly told her that be persistent, don't give up, keep trying. You have to help those children. And she was teaching the values. So she was doing once a week and teaching the Christian children values of life. And that led to working in a church where single mother would have children going to the church after the school, which closes at 3 o'clock, and mothers would finish their work at 5 o'clock. So 3 to 5 was the period she would teach them. And the time came, as the years go by, there was big change in the children behaviors, such that parents would try and come from their work early to attend the classes. And thank Neelam so much that my children's behavior has changed so much that even at home, they are so respectful, loving and caring. So Baba's teaching was what she was giving it to the children. And those were the guidance Baba was giving it to her as to how to continue our service activities in our hometown, Atlantic City. Our contact with Baba continued, and he always said that I'm always with you. And one beautiful experience I had, I'm a cardiologist by practice. In the middle of the night, I get emergency call, and one of the patients was in complete heart block. That is the condition where a person requires a pacemaker. So I run into the hospital and trying to put in a pacemaker. And because it's an emergency, so it's a temporary pacemaker we put, and it is put in. Now the technology is much better. We do it under fluoroscopy, but those days we're just putting it blindly. And a wire goes into the heart, and we try to dislodge blindly in a spot where heart starts pumping through the pacemaker. I tried many attempts, and I was unsuccessful. And finally, I closed my eyes and prayed to Swami that, Swami, please help me. If I am not able to do this, this person is going to die. And I cannot, under your guidance, I cannot let that happen. And after I did the prayers, and then I made that attempt, and the pacemaker landed in the right spot, and the pacemaker started working, and finally the patient survived and went home with a permanent pacemaker next day. So the Swami, once you, like say that once you step to the God one step and He comes to you 100 times. And this is when I remembered that at the time of need, if you sincerely pray Him, He is always going to come and help us. So that was my one experience, and Baba is always with us. In some other interviews, we talked to Baba about, we know Baba, you are always with us, but Nilam asked Baba that, do you come to our home? And because we have a mandir, and we have Swami's bedroom and his own table where he sits down and eats, and we always offer the food first to him, Brahmarpanam, etc. So it just so happens that before we went to Parthi, there was a little discussion between my wife and I, Nilam and I, and we were sitting in the kitchen, and we have a steps that leads to the kitchen. So I was sitting on the dining table, and she's on the steps, and we had a little discussion back and forth regarding certain things. And we go to Parthi first. Our usual routine was that go to Parthi first directly, see Baba, or if we get lucky, meet Baba, and then go to my home in Bombay and visit my parents and be with them and spend the rest of the time there. And fortunate enough, at that time, Swami called us, and we go in, and just Nilam and I, we are alone in there. And Nilam asked, Swami, do you come to our home? And Swami smiled and replied that I was there before you all came to India. I was there and I was listening to you. And he repeated our conversation word by word, that I said this and she said this and I said this and she said this. And we both were shocked with our mouth wide open and eyes open, that Swami was listening to every word we said. So, like we always say, that God is everywhere, He is always with us, and that was, He was giving us the proof that He's always with us. And we should never be forgetting that. And once we know that He's with us, and it's like in Puttaparthi, how disciplined we get when Swami is there. And we should always feel that Swami is here with us, and we should always follow His teaching, discipline, truthfulness, etc., etc. So that was a wonderful example. And another time, same thing happened, that my wife asked that, Swami, we are offering food to you. Are you eating it? Are you having it? And one time, and Swami always does this just before we are supposed to go to Parthi, and he kind of knows that these questions are going to come. So he does something so that we remember it. And one time we had offered the food to Swami, and then a day or two later we go to Parthi, and at that time we asked the question, Swami, do you like the food, what I offered to you? And Swami said, remember, you made this and this on this day, and I ate half of it, and literally plate something was missing. And we had a dog at that time at home, and he is never allowed to go to the mandir. But somehow we just blamed him that he must have eaten it. But then Swami said that he ate it. So he gives the examples and also tells us that I am there all the time. And Swami is so funny that not only he said he ate it, but he said that don't give me pizza, I don't like that. So he even add into that. So we stopped offering him pizza, we would make something else the day we are making pizza. And then we had many examples of many umpteen experiences in the medical camps where we would smell Swami's presence. There is a very unique incense that some people would smell, and we'll smell that. And Swami also have given the vibhutis in different medical camps, telling everyone that I'm with you, I'm seeing you, what you're doing, etc. The other experience I would like to share on the faith, that how one should have a unshakable faith in God, knowing that He's always with us, and whatever happens to us, good or bad, it's always good for us. What is bad for us is also good for us. And I'll give you the example where how the faith developed in my son. About 14 years of old, and my son comes out of the shower, and I saw the red marks on his body. So making the story short, I diagnosed him. He had an issue with the blood disease, blood condition. So immediately rushed him to the hospital, and it was so serious enough that person can bleed to death, or he can have hemorrhage in the brain and can be paralyzed, and so on. So knowing what this means, I immediately rushed him to the hospital, and blood tests did prove that. So needed the treatment. He was not happy at all. He said, can we do all these things tomorrow? Because it was a Halloween night that night. And 14 years old is still at the age group where they like to go and do trick or treats. And finally I forced him. I said, no, this is important. You have to do this. He starts getting the treatment. He had an IV put in his arm. And those who are physicians and those who are working in the hospital and those who have personal IV put in their body, they know that once they put in the IV, they put a plastic wrap around the IV. And of course, there are tapes on that wrap so that it stays nice and clean and nothing happens to the site. So here I'm at this upset in the hospital getting therapy, and he's again angry at Swami. Why Swami is doing this to? I missed my trick and treat. All my friends went and I couldn't go, and etc., etc. Next day morning, my wife Neelam stayed with him whole night in the hospital. Next day morning, nurse comes to check him out, and they always check the IVs and flush it and make sure it's working, and etc. And she looked at the IV site, and there was vibhuti under the tape around the IV site. And the nurse was, what is this? What did you guys do? She starts yelling at him, and my wife looked at him, and actually looking at him, she was so happy. And look, Amit, look, Swami is with you. There's no way anybody can put vibhuti under the tape without opening the tape. And that was the initial step of his faith developing in Swami. And that leads to 2 years later, at one of the birthday time, asked Swami that, Swami, I would like to bring children, and I would like you to talk to them, bless them. So he was very generous and told me that bring them next month at the Christmas time when children have school holidays. So next month I go to Puttaparthi with the children, and Swami also uh, gave us the interview. And he knows everybody's schedule, who's coming when, who's going when. So he called us on the last day, which he always does. Always the interviews are on the day you are supposed to leave. And this is when Amit is in the 10th grade, and in the interview, Swami talked to him and my both sons. And at that time, Nilam told Swami that, Swami, please bless my children. And Swami immediately said, no, they are not your children, they are my children. I have given you to raise them. And then he hugged both my sons and gave a beautiful hug, and we had a nice pictures taken. But the important thing here in the story is that he told Amit, you're going to be orthopedic surgeon. And he told my other son Kunal that you're going to be like your daddy. And so this is, Amit is in the 10th grade in the high school. Orthopedic surgeon is a long way to go, but Amit remembered that and finally did the medical school, and after the school then doing the residency. So did the residency in the hospital where they have orthopedic program, where the orthopedic director was impressed by the Amit's work and told him, I'll give you the residency. So before their orthopedic, they have to do 1 year surgical rotating, so-called internship, working in different surgical departments, which he did. And he was promised by the director that, okay, well, I like you, Amit, I like your services, I like the way you handle the patients, I'll give you the spot for next year when you finish your 1 year rotating internship. And then when the time comes to receive the position, he gives it to somebody else. And there's a big story behind it, why he gave it to somebody else. So even the director was saying sorry to Amit, that Amit, I'm very sorry, I'm not giving you this year, but I guarantee you I'll take you next year. And then a lot of things happened. I tried, Amit, to get into different programs, do this, do that, this surgical program. But he was so adamant that no, I want to do orthopedics. I didn't get it. I'll apply somewhere else, but I'm not doing anything other than orthopedics. So I was worried. Nilam was worried. So we both decided to go to Parthi, and this is in the month of May. The residency starts July 1. So in May, I go to Parthi, but normally the positions are given out in the month of March or April. So 1 month we did a lot of struggle. He gave interviews in other programs, but still, if it was an orthopedic, he wouldn't take it. Finally, we decided, let's go to Swami, because this person is just not going to do anything other than that. He has so much faith in Swami that Swami said it, it's going to happen. So we both go to Parthi and wanting to talk to Swami. And Swami wouldn't come close to me. So we stayed there. Days goes by, and then we both decided until he talks to us, we are not leaving. And one early morning, about 3:30 in the morning, I receive a call from Amit. And Amit says, Dad, please say thank you to Swami. I said, what happened? I said, well, my director called me and he said that the residency review committee who decides on how many positions each program should have, they just approved second position in our program. And my director immediately calls me and says, hey, we have second position, you take it. He signed it, and as soon as he got out of the room, he called me and he says, say thank you to Swami. And now, of course, morning darshan comes. We both are happy. We are going to the darshan, and Swami comes straight to me, telling me, "Mil gaya," meaning, did he get it? So Swami knows, and he's playing all this, the lila and all this the fancy way of checking whether how much faith we have in him and testing us. Amit's faith in Swami was so strong that he said, I'm going to get it. Since Swami said it, I'm not worried about it. Parents were worried, and that's why parents ran to India to talk to Swami, that put some uski khopdi mein kuch dalo, ki at least he does something rather than sitting at home. And Swami played it so well, and we were so thankful to Swami. Amit had written the letter. I said, email me right away. I will go out and get it printed and then give the letter to Swami, which I did early morning, and then went for the darshan. Swami took his letter also, and Swami blessed it. And the same day we took the flight and came back. So this was the example of faith, and we all should have a faith like this. So in one of the interviews, Swami blessed me with this beautiful ring with a green stone, which I was very happy with. And then I went back, and what had happened was I felt that stone is a little in such a way that the water is going behind the stone. So next visit to Swami, and Swami talks to us again, and I just told Swami, because a lot of people have said that something Swami gives and you say something about it, Swami will take it and give you something else, and so on. So and it was the truth that the water was going behind the stone. So I told Swami that, Swami, the water is going, when I'm washing my hand, the water is going behind the stone. Swami said it so beautifully. It is good. It cleans you from inside. So the message I get it is that I am cleaning you from inside out. So let the water go. And suddenly the water stopped going through the ring after that. So, and this is the final thing that Swami did for me, that I'm so grateful to him. Was a lot of times people say in Prashanti Nilayam in the veranda that don't ask anything, your personal thing, to Swami. Asking guidance on personal thing is one thing, but asking for your own self is something that one should not do. But this is the belief that was going on, and we talked about it. So what I had was the condition in my eye called keratoconus, and that is the condition where the cornea gradually becomes like a cone, and it looks like an ice cream cone. If somebody can look at me from the side, you could see literally the cornea is becoming like an ice cream cone. And when that is happening, your refraction and the vision changes as the cone gets bigger and bigger. And every 3 months, I was changing my glasses. And particularly, we were going Shivratri, Guru Purnima, birthday, and Christmas. So every 3 months, I would change my glasses just before I'm flying out to Parthi, so that I can see Swami very clearly. And this happened for 4 or 5 years. And I went through the proper treatments of cornea and required the hard contact lenses that many years ago, when contact lenses came out, they were like hard lenses, and there were so much discomfort on that. And basically, contact lens, the hard glass lens, presses on the cone to try to prevent its growth. And so I went through that changing the glasses every 3 months and so on. And I never asked Swami that I have this condition. And finally, before going to Perthi, I used to go to the Riverside, which is the famous eye hospital in Philadelphia. They were treating me. And every time I will go there, they will do keratogram, where they calculate the growth of the conus, etc. And finally, on one visit, they said that, Doc, your keratoconus is severe enough that now you have to consider transplant. And being a physician, any transplant requires a lot of precautions and steroid drops and chemotherapy, etc. But particularly steroid drops is a lifetime. And in spite of me not asking Swami up on this for 5 years, finally I decided I'll tell Swami that give me the blessings because I'm going to have a corneal transplant. And so in the interview, told Swami about my story on the eye, and Swami thought of something, looking up, and then finally looked at me and says, take out your glasses, which I did. Then he put his 2 hands on my forehead, so as if somebody is sitting here, and his 2 hands on the forehead, and with his 2 thumbs, he rubbed my eye, both eyes, 3 times. And then he says, Acha hai abhi, sab theek hai. He didn't say anything about go and have surgery, not have surgery. But once he rubbed those eyes, I came out and took the flight back home. And here I go. My numbers then stopped changing. And whatever number was there wouldn't change. And I was so happy about it. So my next visit to Riverside, they called me that it's time for your visit. And I was postponing it because I said I don't need it anymore. And finally, they said that please come and get it checked out because you really have to consider for transplant and so on. So I finally go there for the checkup. And every checkup, the technician would first do the keratogram, which measures the extent of the conus formation. And so technician does the keratogram, and he always compares the progression from 4 years ago, and gradually each visit they would have a graph saying that how much is the progression over this period of time and so on. So he did the keratogram and got the print out and compared with the old one, and then he comes back and he says, there's something wrong, I have to do it again. And I said, okay, go ahead and do it. He does another keratogram and again does the same thing. And then he calls the Riverside doctor who I was seeing. He himself comes, he normally comes after the keratogram, but so this technician calls him. He comes in and he says, let me do the keratogram myself. So he does it and he goes in, pulls out old records in a computer, compares it, and then he comes back and tells me, I'm so sorry. We made the wrong diagnosis. You just don't have keratoconus. I don't know how we made that diagnosis. I apologize. I'm so sorry. And I couldn't tell the doctor that why it is not there anymore, because they wouldn't understand what Swami can do, and Swami cleared my keratoconus, giving me the vision which I'm using to do the service all around the world. Currently we are in Africa and Kenya, and this is going to be our 5th day of our medical service. We just finished the service today. Very blissful experience, and Swami's love was all over, both in the patients and the doctors. Wonderful team to work with. So, and I pray to Swami to keep giving me the opportunity to do more and more service wherever he wants me to do it. Sai Ram.